Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Think Tank Sports. Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen. Check us out on the socials: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We've got some stuff out there. Mike will talk about that. Listen to us on Anchor or wherever you get your podcasts. We're all over the place on many of those delivery systems, as we like to call them, and watch these two fabulous faces on YouTube. We're out there for your visual pleasure, if you will, as far as that goes. If you could call looking at the two of us pleasurable. Woo, boy, getting off track really quickly. But we are here to talk about college football and bowls and storylines and semifinals and championships and all that kind of fun stuff that has been the bowl season, which is pretty much winding down to the championship game coming up on Monday night. But of course, not just me on the podcast. Whoop, over that way is Mike. Hey, Mike, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing good. I just would like to point out to my beautiful and amazing wife that all the DMs that we're about to get from women watching us because of our physical attraction, Dave said it, I didn't. So if you're listening, baby, I love you. I didn't bring on this DMs.
Fair point. That was just
No,
completely ad lib from me.
Hey, it's been a problem for my whole life. I understand. Let's start with a bowl game that really didn't have much consequence, but a storyline for sure. And that's just, what is it? The ReliaQuest Bowl, Mississippi State and Illinois, where Mike Leach passes away tragically from a heart attack at 61. And his son was a graduate assistant on the team. He's at the game, obviously super emotional and very difficult for him. And they pull out a last-second win against a good Illinois team. So just happy, for that program and for Mike Leach's son to be in attendance with his dad's team, did what they did. So I don't know if you caught any of that, Dave, or you have any comments there, if you just want to move on to the next
No,
game.
I didn't catch any of that, but obviously the healing power, if you will, of galvanizing teams together in a common goal around the Mike Leach issue there at Mississippi State. Good for them, good for them to kind of, come together and play well and get a victory, as I'm sure Mike Leach would have wanted them to. So yes, outstanding stuff there for sure.
It'll be interesting to see who they end up hiring to replace him too. But we'll go down that road later.
Yes.
Was there a game that caught your attention there, buddy?
Oh, we should talk about our favorite Duke's Mayo Bowl.
We should absolutely talk about that.
Although the game itself was just awful. It was on Friday, December 30th. It opened up the games that day, and oh boy, it was difficult to watch, to say the least. The biggest disappointment for me in this game, Mike, and we talked about it, they got to the end of the game and it ran long, which I thought a lot of the bowl games did. Commercials,
more commercials
timeouts,
than ever, right?
Oh, these games were. This game, I turned it on, and I was like, okay, it's getting close to 3:00. I want to make sure that I sit down and watch for the Mayo bath.
You want
and
the
I come out
experience,
and oh yes, and this game didn't get over to like 3:30, 3:45, and
so that might have played into their decision.
Obviously. Oh, it absolutely did. Yeah. So they are getting the game's over. They're showing and there's getting all of the Mayo bath teed up for Maryland's coach, and then they're like, oh, you can tune into the app and watch that. And they cut away to the next game. And I was like, are you kidding? So I open up the app.
CBS known for all their great streaming and app development.
Brutal. Sorry. And I'm like, what the? And open up the app, nothing. couldn't see it. Went back later to find it. It was right there. I went to play it and it said, "Oh, error, can't play." So like what I think is one of the great new traditions in some of these unbelievable numbers of ridiculous named bowl games. The Duke's Mayo Bowl is actually a fun one, and we don't even get to see it.
Right. So it does come out on social media. We did put it out on our Twitter feed.
Yes, we did. Yep.
Michael Oxley, head coach, a large African-American gentleman. And if you thought it didn't sit right with like Shane Beamer and those guys getting it on, on the chin, so to speak, this really didn't sit right. He had it over. Have you seen this trend, Dave? That these oversized baseball caps people are wearing, like 10 times the size of a regular baseball cap. He had one on when they started
the bath,
doing the Mayo bath, and that caught a lot of it, obviously. But then, rightfully so, I don't know if their social media people or whoever said you got to take the hat off, and now you have a very large bald black man with Mayo. Yeah. A family show. I'll leave the rest of it
all over. But yeah, I mean, regardless of who it is,
not good.
It's hilarious.
And I say this every year. Why isn't it this the punishment for the losing
coach? I said that to my boys too. It really does need to flip, and the losing coach really does need to get the bath.
You want to talk about playing for stakes? You know what I mean? The rest of these bowls that don't quote unquote matter. That would matter if I was a head coach.
You better believe it. Well, you'd be all over your players. Look, I don't want to take this Mayo bath.
Right.
The game itself, Mike, as we mentioned, terrible. I'm just looking at the rushing.
We can move away from that.
The rushing numbers. This is all you need to know. 1.9 yards per rush for Maryland. 1.5 yards per rush for NC State. That's all you need to know. It was truly horrible. Anyways,
if you listen to Lose With Us, you know that the Orange Bowl, the orangest of orange bowls in the history of orange bowls, I was highly disappointed, David Clemson's effort. They looked like they had practice, especially on offense. They didn't have a plan. They were running random plays, and I don't know if they had a new, play caller on the coaching staff, or I know we had the new QB and all of that. Although he played some pretty critical moments in the season, they were just terrible. And Tennessee came to play and really made a statement. I think that these two programs going forward are going to be in competition, even though they're in different conferences. They're in different leagues, I guess. Is that what they call it?
Conferences. You had it right the first time. Yeah.
Okay. Still same basic region, the Southeast. And,
right. They are
rivalry,
close,
and they're both going to be good, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be in the top, 8 in the country, looking for a playoff spot next year. So I thought Tennessee really made a statement. So
I think it's, boy, they gave Cade Klubnik, the quarterback for Clemson, plenty of opportunities. They threw the ball 54 times. He ran the ball 20 times. And this is a guy who stepped in because DJ went into the transfer portal and, ended up, what did Steve say? Oregon State
or somewhere, buried in the West.
So he certainly had plenty of opportunities here to make an impact on the game. And so, we'll see how Clemson is, but I agree with you. I mean, they're both going to be.
It was just flat.
Yeah. Yep.
I was surprised.
All of those attempts aside, I mean, they scored 14 points.
Right.
I mean, that's just not getting it done when it's number 6 versus number 7.
Right. So what that tells me, there's no extra effort by anybody that caught the ball. And I mean, you get the point. They were flat. Let's talk about Double Dip Dave, the Pinstripe Bowl. If we have to, we have to. And we have to. We talked about them all year.
Yep.
I still, and I say this every time too, that they play the Pinstripe Bowl in Yankee Stadium. It just doesn't look right. Like, some of the stadiums they play football in, it's like they could get away with this if they had to.
Yeah.
At Yankee Stadium, it just doesn't look even remotely organic.
Yeah, I was just thinking about I don't know why this image came right into my head just at this moment. Is Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia when they used to do that when the Phillies played and the Eagles played there. Well, they put stands in. You didn't have this huge gap between the field
Right.
and the regular stands. They put
Right.
stands to fill that in, and I think that has something to
That
do
would make
with
a
it. Like,
difference. Yeah.
and I noticed this time, and I didn't watch the Pinstripe Bowl the previous year, but they actually had like those like little blue walls around the
Mhm.
field to kind of like
Mhm.
frame it in a little bit. And of course they put sponsors on it. That's really the
Right.
big part of it. But yeah, it doesn't have a good feel. The
No.
field itself was awful.
Oh, terrible.
Just awful. I mean,
Correct.
contributed to so many players slipping and falling. And, all that being said, Syracuse managed just to roll up 477 yards of offense.
Yep.
And
But just couldn't finish.
You have they get the touchdown. It's 14-10. They're driving in they hold Minnesota 3-and-out. They're driving down the field, bang, bang, bang with the passing that had all of a sudden just opened up at the end of the second half and into the third quarter. And Garrett Schrader just, throws the guy, a cheap, easy pick six, and the guy picks it off, takes it 50 some odd yards for the touchdown. And that was really the difference. Syracuse ends up, losing 28-20. They got a late touchdown and then had used their timeouts. So they didn't have any timeouts left to stop the clock. It's just Syracuse just dominated in a lot of aspects. But as I saw from several Syracuse media folks, the same kinds of things that have hurt them all year hurt them in this game, giving up big plays on special teams. The next drive, Minnesota, got a 71-yard kickoff return. So they only had to go, they got to the end of this. It was like 25 yards to get in the end zone. To again, extend out the lead. You have the interception, you have the penalties at key moments.
It just seems like they're very undisciplined. At the worst time. It just bites them at the very worst time every time.
Yep. And
let me ask you
Coach
this.
Babers said, look, that we have to clean that up. That there's some other things that we know about, but there's some things that we absolutely need to clean up, and penalties and special teams are two of the big ones.
Thanks for joining us here on All Syracuse Talk all the time here on Orange You Glad I Didn't Say Banana here in Central New York.
Orange You Glad.
Orange You Glad we didn't say banana.
Wow.
Why wasn't Sean Tucker playing running back for Syracuse? Mr. 34, Mr. I'm going to be the captain, the leader. I'm going to do everyone proud that wore this number before. Where was he, buddy?
Okay, so I'm going to have to call you out. The number's 44, and he doesn't wear it because they haven't taken it down yet. But there's that. He still is an amazing running back, and this is going to send me off into.
So he did wear 34.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he wore 34.
I thought there was a big hubbub last year, and they ended up giving him the number.
No, there was talk about it, and they said no.
So that's my
that's
bad.
Okay.
You're right. I can see Jim Brown and Rob Carpenter and those guys.
Yes. So, you're wrong. I'm right.
Yes. You're attractive. I'm ugly. Yes,
you're good looking. I'm not attractive. Anyways, so my rant on this is I am sick and tired. Yes, sick and tired, like Bill Cosby. I am sick and tired of these players.
I don't know if you want to reference Bill Cosby in 2023, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
It's still funny.
It's Bill Cosby himself. Go watch it. It's funny. I'm so sick and tired of these players who announce that they are going to the draft and immediately are like, oh, well, I have so much to do to prepare for the draft, which is in April. This is December. that I can't play in the bowl game. Now I'm going to be on the sidelines and I'm going to watch the game and I'm going to, do my, contributing to the team by, pumping them up or whatever. Just play the freaking game. Will you please? And this is not just Sean Tucker. It's all across college football.
It was starting wide receivers for you guys too, right? I think they were saying on the broadcast, especially skill position wise,
on our defense, defense.
Oh, maybe with
really,
cornerback.
Yeah. Defense. Yes. Yep. Defense really hurt because Deuce Chestnut, and then Garrett Williams, so, I mean, you're lost. So here's a Syracuse team that holds Minnesota to 215 yards and was missing 5 defensive starters. So is say whatever you want about that, but I just, it's so annoying to me, that this goes on. And, they talked about the Minnesota offensive lineman. Oh, he's the best tackle or guard in, Mel Kiper's draft list and whatever. Play the freaking game.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, 20 years ago, players were announcing for the draft and they played the bowl games.
Right. With less equipment, less medical science available, all that stuff.
Yeah. It is so frustrating.
This Big Orange Talk brought to you by Jim Boeheim's Safe Driving Class. Jim Boeheim's Safe Driving Class. Mostly right most of the time. Good enough for Central New York. Jim Boeheim's Safe Driving Class.
Wow.
Google it. USC Tulane, Dave. Not the Cotton Bowl, if you will, because that's what they called it. What a furious comeback by Tulane. Like, USC got up quite a bit and turned the switch off, and they couldn't turn it back on. And to see that small school have that big day and have quite a few incredible athletes, some incredible long plays by Tulane, 46-45, super entertaining, super defense optional. One of probably the bowl games of the year that isn't the 2 semifinals, which we're getting to shortly, folks. Hang in there.
Yeah, and Caleb Williams, shows that he's every bit the Heisman Trophy winner. 37 of 52, 462 yards and five passing touchdowns. But yeah, as Mike mentioned, 28-14 USC at the half. They score just 17 points in the second half, while Tulane scores 32 in the second half. So
great job.
Yeah. And as my one son pointed out, how is this possible that Tulane completed 8 passes, and won this game? Wow. Well, they won this game because they had 34 rushing attempts for 300 yards, but they completed 8 passes. Yeah. Is that good?
What's the yardage on the passes?
Oh my gosh. Let's just see. Yards per rush. 9.
No yardage. Oh, okay.
Actually, interesting. Yards per pass was 13. I mean, they did get 234 yards passing.
I was going to say 2 of the 8 I could picture super long.
Yeah, you had the 87-yarder to Jackson.
Yeah, that was,
and then there was a 59-yarder as well.
Athletic, yeah.
But it's just
if you're going to watch one play, watch that play. Yeah, that was athletic.
And that was for Jackson, his only catch of the game, the one catch for 87 yards. But
so Tulane ends up
12-2. Yes,
amazing. And USC 11-3. Keep that in mind, USC season, because I want to come back to that in 2 minutes. Okay. The other game I want to talk about in that context is the Rose Bowl with Penn State and Utah. Penn State comes out, puts the hammer on early, and keeps Utah down. The final score is not indicative of the dominance Penn State had in this game. 35-21 is the final, and Penn State ends their season 11-2. Did you watch any of this game or any?
I watched some of it. I was really shocked by
Utah.
It just looked flat.
Right.
And I think in general with bowl games, I think it's very difficult because there's such a long gap between the last game. Some of these teams, it's been 4 weeks since they've played, when they've gone from, August to, end November, beginning in December, playing every week. I think that lends itself to that from time to time. But yeah, I mean, Utah, geez, they were like the darling, and wow, look at what they did to
I was high on
USC and
them
everything
in
else.
preseason and early season for sure.
They come in at number 8, and yeah, and you talked about it during the year too, Mike, how, Penn State just kind of under the radar, and
Well, let's go there. So like you said, under the radar, there are only 2 losses or to 2 of the 4 playoff teams this year. Michigan blew them out. Ohio State, Penn State had a lead at halftime and narrowly lost that game. And that's it. And they really dominate everybody else on their schedule. 11-2, they'll probably end up in top, 8 in the country.
Oh, yeah,
would you rather
probably,
have that, but really no fanfare all year? Never
No.
considered, even though they never left the top 10, never considered a contender, never considered, a threat to anybody. Or USC, who had all that promise and had everything at their fingertips. And yeah, they got Caleb Williams, the Heisman, but they really did not fulfill what was a very promising season. Remember 3 weeks ago, we were talking about, playoffs and national championship contention.
Yes.
And here they are losing a non-playoff bowl game. So, which season would you rather have?
Yeah.
So I'm asking you, Dave, if you were a fan, from a fan's perspective, and from a coach's perspective, everyone would probably pick USC because you did have it in your own hands. And
yeah, and
I can do a better job.
Yeah, and I think that's the tough part, is in their hands, and also, again, all of the hype that went around it. Like,
right.
As a fan, it's nice to see your team, be really good. But when the media gets on and it's like, wow, like they're talking about my team and my team is really good, and you think about all of that with USC, but I'm sure there's a huge group of fans that will say, I'll take an 11-2 season with 2 of the losses to 2 of the top 4 teams in the country. And I'll take that type of season. So I think it's divided. I think for me, I probably would lean towards the USC side of things, the dynamic quarterback and being in the limelight for most of the year. But and then I would just be really disappointed with how they played in the bowl game.
Right. No,
how they played in the Pac-12 championship game too.
It feels like Penn State has accepted relegation. They are the 3rd team in the Big Ten, and they're going to be the 3rd team in the Big Ten. And, Wisconsin and Nebraska and whoever else, Illinois, whatever, cute efforts, Michigan State. But they're all going to be behind the top 3. And Penn State is solidly 3rd. And they've seemed like everyone in the world, including Penn State, has accepted that. And for that reason, I would advocate a coaching change. I don't think Franklin's done a bad job at all. I think he's done quite a good job. But if you're going to be stagnant for multiple years, you can't have an era of relegation like this. You know what I mean? Like, it's really starting to turn into a problem.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be this year, but if it happens again this year, watch out. Okay, that's just what I'm seeing. All right, let's get to the playoffs, Dave. What are we doing here?
Yeah, and I think that it brings up an interesting point too, that there's been information out there that Jim Harbaugh might jump to the NFL, and so
imaginary that.
Right, but as you look at the whole argument you just put together, well, I mean, Jim Harbaugh, say what you want. I think he's a very, very good coach. He's finally kind of, gotten over that Ohio State hump and all of that. But you take him out of the mix in the Big Ten. And I know Michigan is a very good team, but you could make an argument that Penn State could, pop over them if Jim Harbaugh leaves. And so that's a big moment there. But yeah,
I'll believe it when I see it. I think, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about his team then, since we're on Jim, the Khaki King. Uh,
Khaki King.
Overall, and especially if you listen to Lose with Us, you know how I have not respected TCU all season, and thought every week that this was the week that they were going to get beaten, and I've been obviously wrong. Um, and so I finally succumbed to the obvious about halfway through this game. I bent the knee to TCU, Dave.
Yes.
They're quite impressive. Quite impressive.
Oh my
indeed.
gosh.
I didn't think they had the athletes to stay with Michigan size-wise, and that was simply not true. Michigan could not run the ball, and that's the beginning and the end of this game. Everything else, yes, McCarthy played poorly at quarterback. The turnovers helped. The non-touchdown touchdown in the first half, which if I've ever seen a touchdown catch, that was more obvious to me than the famous Des Bryant catch in the NFL to me. I mean, this three quarters of his hip landed in the end zone.
Yeah.
And they're saying that, half a ham hock there that was hanging in bounds or whatever was down by contact or whatever. I just don't see it. Now, granted, they fumbled the next play on the snap. So, didn't help themselves. But that all being said, TCU, like I said, major props to them stepping up or having the horses athletically and physically up front. I did not ever see them defensive line dominating Michigan's offensive line and stopping the run game. Would Blake Corum being healthy have helped? I don't think so. It wasn't like Edwards was maybe he dropped a pass or two that Corum would have caught, but other than that, he was getting tackled. That's a line of scrimmage or behind.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Oh no. TCU, the two pieces, the offensive and defensive lines, and the way they were able to manhandle, and on the defensive side of the ball, the speed of their linebackers to just not. Michigan couldn't even get outside on the times that they were able to get through the line there. So.
And that's a testament to the D line that those linebackers were free and easy to run and use their athleticism. But yes, great point.
Yeah. So, but this game, TCU got up big and then Michigan came back. These two teams scored 44 points in the third quarter. I mean, it was somewhat of a defensive game at halftime. And then whatever the defensive coordinators decided to do in the second half, whether they changed their game plan or not, the wheels completely fell off, as you like to say. And it was just an absolute shootout. But every time Michigan did something, TCU had something to come back with. And, that Duggan kid, my gosh.
I was just going to say, how much have we all fallen in love with Max Duggan?
Oh, it is ridiculous. But when you look at, there were two plays. At the one I remember, the long, what ended up being a long touchdown pass. He's dropping back so far, and you're like, what is he doing?
What is he doing?
Then he uncorks the ball, winning exactly. And the one play that goes for 76 yards. Like, he gets it to the receiver just beyond the line of scrimmage, and he turns upfield and he's gone. And that was right after Michigan had gotten it close with a touchdown of their own. And
that's not just any receiver. That's Quentin Johnston, who is going to have major NFL success.
Yeah.
The speed and apparently the route running combination. He's super impressive. So
So, Duggan wasn't like great, like from a total game perspective in the passing game, but he made the big plays. He also ran 15 times for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's just, he was
a warrior.
And DeMercado coming in, after Miller got hurt, and I mean, he was just a beast. There's no way you would have said TCU would be 263 yards rushing against Michigan's defense.
No.
But they did, like you said, they did all of the things, and now they've gotten
It's
all the way.
funny.
And I don't want to hear from you, Mike, if they lose in the championship game that, well, I
No,
told you they were going to lose one of these games.
no, 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 no. No, I told you I bent the knee. When I bend the knee, I bend the knee. I won't go back on that. So do you feel like Harbaugh and the coaching staff got out coached by TCU in the second half? Or, it's funny because like all season I heard people putting Michigan's defense down and you can run on this team. And nobody really did though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even Ohio State, even Michigan State, big time running programs just still didn't run on them. And then they get to the most important game of the year and and this also probably, Dave, is a reflection of having a month to prepare.
Mhm.
You know exactly what hole and at what angle those running backs need to get through there and schemed accordingly, So I don't know. I asked, do you think there was a coaching advantage on either side, I guess?
I didn't see that. I think,
No, me either.
what we talked about already is just the players on the field, and TCU's players just played better. Now,
Okay.
could you go back to coaching and say, is it possible that Harbaugh and the Michigan coaches said, oh, we've got this game and, we're not going to let them push us around, but, we don't really think they can. There was actually some talk about that. I believe there was some bulletin board material. Yes. About, some Michigan players commenting that they couldn't remember what conference TCU was in. And TCU, they put that out and they said that was motivating them. So could you make an argument that Michigan didn't take them seriously and that's a reflection on coaching? Perhaps. I just think the TCU players just outplayed Michigan. I didn't see a ton of coaching decisions that I thought were blatant.
No, I agree. I just know that some of the Harbaugh haters and Michigan haters are trying to point that out, but I think it's a false narrative for sure. What about my 10,000-pound gorilla with a chainsaw for a dick? Almost had their chainsaw get
almost had their
caught.
chain broken or caught,
Yeah.
or whatever
whatever metaphor finishes
imaging
that
you
up.
want there.
Yes. Against
really
this
good
game,
Ohio
State team.
This game really looked out of hand. It was obviously just close enough where Georgia was within striking distance. But Ohio State for 3 quarters, Mike, they played really, really well, dominated. They had big injuries in this game, Mike. They lost their tight end early on. And then, of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. got hurt later on when you go in the third quarter, and he couldn't come back. And hearing afterwards, it's not excuses, but, the coaches, and Coach Day said, look, those are big blows for us. You think if Georgia had lost Blake Bowers, that would have come back to haunt them for sure.
True.
But that being said, Stetson Bennett, he did it last year.
Yep.
And, everybody's like, he's not that good of a quarterback, and he runs them to the national championship and makes big plays. And he does it, Mike, again in this game. What are you going to say about this guy? He's 23 of 34.
All he's done is win.
Right. 398 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have the 1 interception there, got a rushing touchdown in the game. And look at, CJ Stroud was 23 of 34 as well. So these guys.
Stroud is impressive.
Yeah.
Stetson Bennett reminds me in the NFL of Jake Delhomme, if you remember him. Very good quarterback. Didn't excel at anything tremendously. He was accurate, but he wasn't super accurate. He had a good arm, but it wasn't tremendous. And
he could run a little bit. And
very smart, but he was just a winner. Wherever he went, took the Panthers to the Super Bowl. Stetson Bennett is that college version. It's like just no respect, except he's won it twice, and he's been the reason why. Well, I
Yeah.
guess he hasn't won it twice. I'm getting
He's gotten
way
there
ahead of
twice.
He's gotten there twice. He's just got it twice. He's had to be the person to make the difference in a field of incredible athletes, and he's done it. And so I just give him all the credit. How bad do you feel for the kicker from Ohio State? Before we get into the coaching decision, for
You
that.
know, I think, you know, a 50-yard field goal is a 50-yard field goal. It's difficult. I think we've come to expect, at least from the NFL side, that those kicks are a lot more makeable. And I think you're more surprised when an NFL kicker misses something of that length. The college kickers, though,
let me riddle you this.
I would be more
40
upset
to
that they
49
couldn't
yards.
get a couple more yards to get it inside.
So let's start there then. To take the ball out of Stroud's hand, and at that moment he's running all over the place, making throws, and they run that little dive up the middle for a couple of yards, and it was the give up of, we're going to kick a long field goal and win. And I understand time's running down and you want to, give yourself a shot eventually, but it was just too early for that. And it doomed this kicker, who was, Dave, 40 to 49 yards on the season. He was 11 for 11. 50 and above, he was 0 for 2.
Yeah.
This made him 0 for 3. So that couple of yards would have made a huge difference. So I don't know if Stroud called an audible because he was tired, because he had been running around like crazy and all over the place. But you know what? It's winning time. You gotta put the ball in the best player's hands, especially when he's hot like that. So I just disagreed with. They had their foot on the gas and just pumped it just a little bit. You know what I mean? And that cost them the game, because the kid obviously wound up and felt like he had to put extra emphasis on the kick, and it never had a chance off his foot. So I just said a lot there. Any reaction to any of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's very, very difficult in a game like that to have a lead, only to give it up, only to come back and put yourself in a position. And I think Ohio State would say this: we put ourselves in a position to win the game, and to not win.
I guess I would argue with that
for whatever reason. I mean,
but we can go from
close enough, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like they had to kick a 50 or a 60-yard field goal, or it's right on the edge of his accuracy, but they made just enough plays I mean, that's very, very difficult. If that was my team, I'd be losing my mind, with some of that.
Because the run takes up time. You know what I mean? Just so much time to unpile and reset the ball. It just takes up time. I understand, and it forfeits yardage necessarily. So I don't know. Easy for me to say, sitting here in my cozy upstate New York home, but these are our observations. So anything else on this game, Dave, or you just want to preview the final?
No, I think we get to the final, and Mike, I'm still shocked by this. I think it opened at 13 or 13 and a half. Now it's down to 12 and a half. Georgia favored in this game. TCU is just getting no respect whatsoever. I understand it's Georgia. They're undefeated. They're the defending national champions, but did anybody pay attention to what happened in the Michigan game? I mean, I would at least take TCU and the points here. I just think it's going to be a lot closer than almost 2 touchdowns. I mean, boy, I don't know.
I'm going to reserve comment. I hate to be this guy, but check us out on Lose With Us if you want to hear my stance on this game. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. I mean, I just called the Georgia 10,000-pound gorilla with a chainsaw for a dick. So you could guess where I'm going, but still, yeah, this game is going to be very interesting to see if TCU can duplicate the effort from the Michigan game.
Yeah.
I think a long enough time will pass where they'll be healed physically. You know, obviously they'll be dinged up in injuries. Everyone's hurt this time of year.
Yep.
But physically recovered, yes. Can they get in, you know, some national championship game? You know, the whole experience thing too is huge. You know, do you get too high too soon, and by the time you get to the game, you're flat? You know, national championship atmosphere and all the extra time and attention, you know, all that stuff. All that being said, you know, I've been on Georgia all year, and I think it's their game to win. As far as gambling, like I said, check us out on Lose With Us. I'll talk about that part of it. What do you think about the quarterback matchup for a college championship game? It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's because you look at two guys that have worked their way into two of the best quarterbacks in college, but not the way, you know, you would say, like, not like a Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson or, you know, any of these guys, right? Cam Newton, you know, you had these guys that had all of this hype around them and produced for a while. These are guys that I could just say they're more, you know, workmanlike, blue collar. More people can relate to them because of that.
I guess the best way I look at it is they probably don't really have an NFL future. This is probably the most important game they're ever going to play in their lives.
Yep, that's fair.
If they're at all self-aware or have anyone else around them that keeps them humble, they'll know that. So I think from that standpoint, the battle of wills between these two, whose, you know, natural talent hasn't been as good as others around the country. But like you said, their grit, determination, hard work, got them where they are. This is the pinnacle for both of them. So it'll be very interesting to watch them. Now, they're not the only two that determine the outcome of a football game, but they're certainly the two with the most opportunity to do it. So
yeah, oh, definitely. And certainly initially I think the focus will be there, but ultimately, just like certainly for TCU versus Michigan, the focus here is going to be the offensive and defensive lines for both teams, and which team is going to be able to impose their will on one side of the ball or the other to make a difference in the game and make big plays to win. I think that's what it's going to come down to. It's really that's where the game's going to be won or lost in my mind.
Okay. So it's been a really interesting bowl season. Really started slowly. The early bowls were brutal. Nobody was in the stands, and the player, you didn't know, 99% of the players on the field, and I don't know. It felt really like the death knell for bowl games. But then New Year's Day, the day before, and the New Year's Day observed, I guess, the second. All three of those days were tremendous football, tremendous college football.
Yes.
So I guess it restored my belief in college football still being the second most popular sport in the country. And I just worry about those lesser bowls and those lesser programs, especially going forward once we get, this
the 12
team college football playoff. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's another discussion for off season. We'll talk about that. But tune in Monday night, get your popcorn ready, get your snacks, get your cream soda. Yeah. Get comfortable and get rowdy. It's college football's finale. Celebrate it. It's fun. These are athletes at their purest. Not only the quarterbacks, but I would say quite a few of these kids are never going to play football again. This is their last game, so it'll be a lot of fun to watch. I'm hoping it'll be good weather. Right now, it does say it's going to be a little bit rainy, so that's would be interesting, especially for the running games. But
Well, there it's at SoFi, so
oh, is it?
yeah.
Oh, for some reason I thought I was in Miami this year.
No, they're in SoFi,
Oh,
so
good
that
call.
shouldn't be an issue.
Shouldn't matter. Okay. All right. It's going to be beautiful. It's a beautiful stadium. Maybe is The Rock going to come out and introduce this game too?
Oh,
At SoFi.
jeez. Oh boy.
I wonder. We'll take bets on that off the air. But folks, thanks for tuning in. We love the feedback. We've had some great success lately on Twitter and on the YouTube. So thank you for that. Continue the good work because we appreciate it. And we'll continue to do our best to bring you our observations here at Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen as we strive for 5. Good night.